My name is Shirley Walters. I'm 34 now, but back then I was 32, working a steady job in finance in a bustling coastal city. I thought I had life figured out, or at least the part that mattered most. His name was Paul, my fiancé of 4 years, the man I believed I'd grow old with. I wasn't perfect, but I was steady enough to shoulder both of us. I worked late nights, saved diligently, skipped dream vacations just to fund his endless projects, yoga retreats, film workshops, a new guitar, a camera he swore would change everything. Whenever he said these things would help him find his calling. I told myself, that's what you do. When you love someone, you lift them higher, even if your own arms ache. Paul was charming in a way that made strangers lean in. Early 30s, restless, chasing something bigger than himself. People were drawn to his energy, that magnetic glow of a man who refused to be ordinary. But over time, that glow shifted. It began with little things, his phone glued to his hand, his laugh echoing across rooms while I sat beside him unseen. Social media posts that read like riddles, ready for new adventures. Who's with me? Captions about chasing vibes as if I wasn't right there, sitting next to him. I tried to laugh off the comments he made about me being too predictable. Shirley, you're safe, you're stable, he'd say, smirking like those words were insults. I'd force a smile, but inside it stung. Stability wasn't glamorous, but it had kept us afloat. The first true fracture came at a rooftop party about 6 months before the end. Warm lights strung across the skyline, music pulsing, everyone tipsy and unguarded. Paul thrived in that chaos, flitting from group to group, his laugh booming, a glass of wine dangling from his hand like an accessory. I was mid-conversation with a colleague when his voice cut through loud enough for me to catch. Shirley's great, don't get me wrong, but I need someone who matches my energy, someone who's out there really living life. The words stabbed clean and sharp. He stood close to a woman I didn't recognize. Tattoos, leather jacket, the kind of daring look he used to admire only from afar. His hand brushed her arm casually like it had every right to be there. My stomach turned cold. I froze beer halfway to my lips. My friend Maya caught my expression and leaned in, whispering, "You okay?" I nodded, forcing my throat to work, but inside something twisted tight. For the next hour, I watched him flirt, not blatant enough to cause a scene, but subtle in the way that screams disrespect, leaning close, laughing at private jokes, eyes sparkling like I was invisible. Later, when I asked him about it, he rolled his eyes. God, Shirley, I was just having fun. Don't be so insecure. But the truth settled heavy in me. I wasn't insecure. I was being erased, one brush of his hand at a time. And deep down, though I wouldn't admit it yet, I knew the party wasn't just a slip. It was foreshadowing, a warning of the storm already brewing. It happened on a Tuesday evening after another grueling overtime shift. My hands were stiff from typing numbers all day, my eyes burning from fluorescent light, but I told myself it was worth it. Always worth it, because the man I loved was chasing his dreams, and I was funding the foundation he stood on. When I walked into our apartment, I knew something was wrong before I even set down my bag. The air felt still staged. On the kitchen counter lay a folded note, my name written in his looping, rushed handwriting. My pulse quickened as I unfolded it. Shirley, I need space to explore my options. It's not you, it's me, trying to find my true path. I'll be staying with a friend for a while. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Paul. Options. The word burned into me. Options like our life together was a limited time trial he could simply cancel. I didn't cry. Not yet. My body went numb as if my mind had flipped a hidden switch. I didn't call. I didn't text. Something inside me, maybe dignity, maybe exhaustion, froze. But Paul wasn't finished twisting the knife. The very next day, he came back to grab his things. I was home, sitting on the couch, the note still on the table beside me, like evidence of a crime. He walked in wearing a fitted jacket I didn't recognize, hairstyled deliberately. Messy lips, painted with a new shade of confidence. He looked like a man auditioning for his next role. "Shirley, we need to talk," he began, tossing his hair back like he was on stage. I clenched my jaw, bracing. "I've been thinking a lot," he said. "You're amazing, stable, dependable. But I can't be tied down with someone so safe." Safe, he said it like poison. Safe. My voice came out flat, steady. "You mean the woman who worked double shifts to buy you that guitar? The one who paid for your retreats, your camera, your every self-discovery phase? He sighed, dramatic. Don't make this about money. This is about energy, Shirley. I need someone who pushes me, someone who challenges me to grow. You're just here, always here. My chest tightened, fury rising, but I kept my face still. So what? You're leaving me for someone who isn't here. His eyes flickered, but only for a second. Then he exhaled, weary, as if I were the exhausting one. I'm not leaving you for anyone. I just need space to explore. Maybe I'll date. Maybe I won't. But I can't do this anymore. It's not fair to either of us. Fair. The word tasted bitter. He was rewriting 4 years into a prison he needed to escape. I stared at him for a long moment, the silence heavy between us. And then quietly I said, You're right. You should have all the space you need. For the first time that day, he faltered. Just a flicker in his eyes, surprise, maybe relief. Good, he said quickly. I'm glad you get it. I'll be out by tomorrow. Let's keep this civil. Civil? I repeated, my lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. Sure. He grabbed a suitcase already half packed, walked out, and didn't look back. The door clicked shut. I stared at the note again. Options. It wasn't just a breakup, it was a dismissal, a rejection of me as too ordinary, too safe. And yet as I sat in the silence, he left behind a new decision rooted itself in me. That night I drafted an email. A job transfer I had once declined because Paul said he didn't want to move. A promotion in another city waiting for my answer. My fingers trembled as I hit send. I'm in. When can I start? By the end of the week, I'd packed my essentials, broken the lease, and planned my escape. I didn't tell Paul. I didn't tell anyone except Maya, my one loyal friend. If Paul wanted space, I'd give him more than he could ever imagine. I'd give him silence. The city I moved to was nothing like the bustling coast I'd left behind. It was smaller, quieter, rain-heavy streets that smelled of coffee and wet pavement. For the first time in years, my life wasn't built around Paul's needs. At work, I buried myself in long hours. My new role demanded precision strategy, endless focus, exactly what I needed to numb the ache he left behind. During the day, I was unstoppable. At night, though, the silence pressed in. I'd lie awake, replaying everything. The rooftop party where he called me safe. The retreats I paid for with my overtime hours. The way his eyes sparkled at other women while mine dulled under fluorescent light. Why did I give so much? Was I just a stepping stone? The questions clawed at me, but eventually pain gave way to something else. Resolve. Instead of falling apart, I rebuilt. I joined a gym at first to sweat out the memories later because I loved feeling my body grow stronger. On weekends, I hiked trails through damp forests, discovering how silence could feel like freedom instead of punishment. I even launched a side hustle consulting for small businesses, an idea Paul once dismissed with a laugh. Too corporate, too boring. Surely he'd sneered. But clients valued my reliability, my safety. What he saw as dullness, others saw as strength. I blocked every trace of him, changed my number, wiped my socials. To Paul, I no longer existed. My only tether to the past was Maya, my closest friend back home. She respected my silence, but slipped me the occasional update. At first, he's thriving, she said over the phone one night. Parties, road trips, cryptic quotes about freedom. He's posting like he's reborn. I laughed bitterly. Of course he is. He's always been good at performances. But Maya's tone shifted after a few months. He's different now. Restless. His options don't seem to stick. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. Instead, I found my own outlet, anonymous posts online, advice forums, relationship boards. I wrote about red flags without names. If they tell you they need space to explore options while you're funding their dreams run. It was my quiet way of reclaiming control, a whisper into the void that maybe someone else could catch before it was too late. And still, despite the silence, I could feel him circling, like a shadow waiting for the moment I'd slip. 6 months after I vanished, Maya called me late one evening. Her voice carried that hesitant edge I'd learned to recognize the tone people use when they are about to tell you something you don't want to hear. Shirley, he's been asking about you. I froze, my pen stilled above the papers on my desk. Asking? Yeah. Said he tried texting, but your number changed. He sounded off, not his usual confident self. I leaned back in my chair, my lips pressing into a thin line. Paul was used to women orbiting him. Silence wasn't something he understood. But Maya didn't stop there. Honestly, things aren't going great for him. He jumped into the apps right after you left. First, there was some woman he whisked away on a weekend trip, paid for it all, of course. She ghosted him the second they got back. I let out a humorless laugh. Options. Then another one, a guy who claimed he needed money for a startup. Paul lent him cash, and Well, you can guess the rest. I didn't ask for more. The image was clear. His options were turning on him one by one. Meanwhile, I had grown steadier, sharper. My work was thriving, my side hustle gaining traction. I was no longer the woman who lived in his shadow. But Paul didn't stop. He tried everything. First came the polite feelers through Maya. Can you just tell Shirley I want to talk? Then the desperate calls to her phone voicemails, where his voice cracked with something unfamiliar regret. Tell Shirley I made a mistake, one message said. Those people, they used me. She was the real deal. Please just tell her that. Maya played it for me once. I listened in silence, feeling nothing. No sympathy, no anger, just distance. His family got involved too. An email from his sister arrived in my inbox. She'd found my work address somehow. You're being petty, Shirley. Paul's going through hell, and you're stonewalling him. After all you two had, the least you can do is call him back. Stop being childish. I deleted it without responding. Because here's what they couldn't understand. Silence wasn't weakness. It was armor. Every time he reached out, and I didn't answer the truth, pressed harder on him, he had burned the one bridge that wouldn't rebuild itself. Paul's world was shrinking, collapsing, under the weight of his so-called freedom. And my mind was only expanding. By the time a year had passed since I disappeared, the contrast between our lives had become almost cruel. I was thriving. My career in finance had accelerated. My side consulting work was picking up high-value clients, and for the first time in years, I felt light. I went to bed without dread, woke up with purpose, and when I looked in the mirror, I no longer saw the woman he once called safe, like it was an insult. But Paul was crumbling. Maya's updates trickled in whether I asked for them or not. He had jumped from one relationship to another, each ending worse than the last. One girlfriend drained his savings with promises of a joint investment. Another, a musician he bragged about endlessly, left him stranded after borrowing expensive gear. His once vibrant social media shifted from glossy road trip photos to vague, desperate posts. Send positive vibes. Some people aren't who they seem. The charisma that once made him magnetic was now unraveling into something jagged, bitter. And then his desperation turned toward me. Blocked numbers. Burners. Fake profiles sliding into my DMs with messages like, Shirley, please, I see things clearly now. Or worse, you can't ignore me forever. You owe me a conversation. I didn't reply. Not once. When silence didn't break me, he escalated. Maya forwarded a voicemail he left on her phone. Please, I was wrong about needing options. Shirley was the one. She challenged me, kept me grounded. These people, they used me, all of them. She was the real thing. Tell her I'll do anything. His voice cracked, and for the first time I heard real panic. But still I felt nothing. Then came his sister again, angrier this time. Another email, this one sharper, almost accusing. Do you enjoy watching him suffer? He made mistakes, but haven't you punished him enough? Surely be the bigger person and pick up the phone. I stared at the words, and for a fleeting second I marveled. Because wasn't it strange? When he belittled me, mocked me, dismissed me as too safe, none of them told him to be the bigger person. But the moment he suffered, they demanded my compassion. No, I had given enough compassion to last a lifetime. The truth was simple. Paul wasn't unraveling because of me. He was unraveling because of himself. And though I didn't say it out loud, I felt the foreshadowing settle like a whisper in the air. Our paths would cross again. It was inevitable. And when it happened, I wondered, would he even recognize the woman I'd become? It was 1 year and a day after I vanished when fate decided to test me. I was at the airport heels, clicking against polished tile, a slim briefcase in hand. I was heading to a client conference, first class this time, not because I needed to, but because I could. My consulting business had grown beyond what I ever imagined. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal when I heard it. Shirley. The sound of my name in that voice unmistakable. My spine went rigid. I turned and there he was, Paul. Except, not the Paul I remembered. His hair was unkempt, his clothes rumpled a carry-on, slung over his shoulder like it was too heavy for him. His face looked older, but not with grace, etched instead by sleepless nights and too many bad decisions. He froze when our eyes met, then rushed forward, relief flooding his expression. Oh my God, it's you. Shirley. I've been trying to reach you for months. Please just give me 5 minutes. I stood tall, gripping the handle of my briefcase. Paul. I said his name the way one acknowledges a stranger, flat and polite. He swallowed hard. I was an idiot. Those options I thought I needed. They were disasters, liars, users, abusers. You were the one who pushed me to grow. You were the real thing. Please, just let's try again. His words tumbled out, desperate, jagged. Passers-by slowed, sensing the tension. His voice cracked. Shirley, please, I need you. I'm trapped in this mess because I left you. I studied him in silence. In the din of travelers and flight calls, the contrast was blinding me in a tailored blazer, poised untouchable. Him unraveling, desperate in public. Finally I spoke, calm, clear, deadly final. You wanted space, Paul. I gave you the whole universe. He blinked, stunned. I built something new in that silence. A life that doesn't include you. He reached for my arm, his grip trembling. But I need you. I made a mistake. I stepped back, his hand slipping into the air. No, this isn't about mistakes. It's about facts. You're not part of my story anymore. His face crumpled, the crowd shifting awkwardly around us. He looked small. The gate agent called final boarding. I adjusted the strap of my briefcase, gave him one last measured look, and walked away. Behind me, I heard him call my name, raw pleading. But I didn't look back. In that moment, surrounded by strangers, I understood my silence had been the sharpest revenge of all. As the plane lifted off the runway that night, I stared out the window at the city lights shrinking below. My reflection in the glass looked calm, steady, untouchable. For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by his voice, his dismissals, or the weight of being too safe. Paul was gone from my life, not because I screamed at him, not because I sought revenge in fire and fury, but because I let silence do what anger never could. He had begged for options. He had chosen freedom, and in chasing it, he destroyed himself. Every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every careless betrayal had come back to devour him. And me, I had taken that same silence he gave me and turned it into something else. Discipline, clarity, independence. My consulting business was thriving. I had new friends who valued me for exactly who I was, no pretenses. I had mornings filled with purpose, evenings filled with peace. People sometimes ask if I ever regret disappearing so completely, if I ever wonder whether giving him another chance might have changed things. The truth, no. Because the person Paul needed me to be, the steady, dependable one, always catching him when he fell, that surely no longer exists. And the woman I've become doesn't need him or his apologies or his chaos. In the quiet of the cabin, I whispered words I never got to say to his face. You explored your options. I explored mine. Turns out freedom suits me better. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, the chapter truly ended.